12:03. Hello, everybody. We're testing something new today, so I want to have you all welcome Eric to the voice of Eric into the stream today, and we're going to see if you guys can hear him. And if it's not, I'll do it the other way. Okay. We're going to do it this way then. Turn off the Discord. Desktop audio up. I might just have to do my headset. 1 second here. Tutorials said it would work. I just didn't want to have a stream. Desktop audio 2. Technology. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm starting to get more used to testing out Streamlabs, and Streamlabs I can easily do it, but OBS, which is what I'm normally running, I can't. So we're going to do it this way. Advanced audio properties. I don't know why it's not showing me Discord. Oh, you know what? I'm just gonna do it this way. I just hate using the clamshells. They just get so warm. They just get so warm. Let's try this. If I have eyeballs. Oh. Looking at the wrong menu. Close. And then I need to go to Eric, go to my microphone. Yeah, I think this is probably fixes it in a second here. Not that one. Where? Microphone. Yeti. Apply. Eric, can you say something? We're trying. Oh, there we go. Can you still hear me now? Let's see. Okay, cool. I need to just swap over my sound. And hopefully we can get... That's because my gain's really high. Give me 1 second here. Blue Yeti. Oh, my gain's really low. Sorry, is that better? All right. I can increase it. I just don't want it to hit too loud. How's that? Microsoft. Oh. I just don't want to have doubles here.
It might.
Is that better?
I could raise my volume higher, but it's still pretty quiet on my end.
How's that?
Oh.
That better?
Oh, now I can hear myself too,
Yay!
Which is great.
I had to do it the other way. You're now they can now hear you through my headphones.
Okay, it's working now, Megan.
All right, are we at a good volume? But now we can, yes, you are meant to hear Eric.
Oh, but
Eric's gonna chat with me about this wedding dress build today.
Oh, I have an interesting problem now.
What's your problem, Eric? This is just a fun day. Trying to have a guest on the show.
I can only hear I can only hear your audio through the stream on a 30-second delay, so this will be a challenge.
Wait, what? Just turn the stream off. Or wait, turn the audio for the stream off. Why is that?
If I turn the stream off, then I can't hear you at all. Yeah, if I turn the audio for the stream off, then there's no audio.
What? Just pretend you're on the moon. Rosemary says pretend you're on the moon. Well, I don't want the lag. Because that'll make it a 60-second lag. It wasn't lagging before, right?
Hmm.
Maybe check your output devices. Oh, that might be why. You know what? I have a secret plan. I think I broke it, but I have an idea. Just for this one stream. Can you hear me now, Eric? I have 2 microphones going today. Oh, he left the call. There we go. Can you hear me now, Eric?
Now I can, yeah.
All right, cool. So I just want everyone on the stream to know that I'm using my headset microphone to speak with Eric while using my Yeti microphone to speak with you guys. I'll figure this out better next time.
Oh, that took a while, but we got it. Thank you, Megan.
Yay, we figured it out. This is the funniest thing I've done in a while. Okay, so let me grab our cheat sheet up now that I've actually gotten the new audio figured out, sort of, kind of, for the stream here. So on audio today and in the restream chat, we have Eric, and he and he works for Marvelous Designer as well. He is the U.S. Business Development Manager, and he'll be helping, chat with me. We're going to talk about the wedding dress build, and he'll help answer questions. We figured having Eric on the stream would be kind of more fun, and I'll have someone to speak with. And for those of you who don't know, I am Megan. I work for Marvelous Designer as the 3D designer and community manager. I do the streams alone most of the time, except for this first time. I think last stream we did skip it on our channel, but we did have a stream with Noman. So this wedding dress build is me recording the building of this wedding dress that we discussed with Noman on that stream. Let me pull up the chat here. And so thank you guys for joining us today. So I'm just going to show you the build of the of that wedding dress, and then we can stop at any time. I have all the files and all the half steps, so if you have any questions, we can answer them. I can answer them, and we'll kind of just chat about how it was made. Just double checking the chat here before I go on. Maybe I'll stay on the moon for now. So I did announce it on the Discord. So we actually have Rosemary, who is one of our power users in our Discord channel. She is lovely. Hi, Rosemary. And let's see here. So let me go ahead and link our Discord to begin with. More often than not, we are the most active on our Discord, from what I can tell. Let's grab. We do also have our forums, so you can speak with other people if you prefer the forum format. We also have, for those of you who are not on our YouTube channel right now watching this, we do have our YouTube channel, because we are also streaming this to Twitch. So I'm just linking in the chat our YouTube channel. And on that YouTube channel, for those of you who are brand new to Marvelous Designer, who don't know how it works, we also have free tutorials to get you started. So you can learn the rules before you start breaking them, which is always the best route to go. And if you are having technical support issues or like you can't get into your account, and it's not kind of questions that we can just answer like, oh yeah, I just use this specific tool, and it's actually technical difficulties, feel free to contact us through the website. The form's going to make it a little bit faster to create a support ticket, so that's why I just recommend using the website for support. And I'm linking that in the stream as well. Let me move this. I need to grab. It would be sure nice if I could have split screen today. Computer. Thank you. We're gonna try one more thing. Looks like Eric wants me to share. Okay. So Eric, you can see the OBS right now.
Perfect.
Can you guys still hear Eric okay? I just want to double check this before we get started.
I'm sure everything's fine.
Okay. So now that we figured that out, let's go ahead and I'm going to try to figure out how to have 3 things on one screen because now I'm sharing my 3 screens.
Except it's actually not the OBS screen that I'd like to see. I would love to see the Marvelous Designer screen.
Yeah, I can show you that. Stop sharing. There you go.
Perfect.
So this is going to be a video. I can stop the video at any time, but we are going to discuss how this was made and any tips and tricks, and I will be pausing it because it is a 55-minute like speed video. But I will show you and answer questions as we go along here. And again, this was entirely made from scratch. So let's go ahead and swap over to main. There we go. So not used to it being a recorded video. But I'm going to be pausing a lot, so I hope you guys it's over that. So to begin with, I'm just bringing in the basic avatar. I don't use any patterns except for one that I made for one of our basic tutorials. So this is the beginning of the skirt, or actually the petticoat in this case. I'm actually making the petticoat here. I used the, I'm going to pause it for a second because I went really, because this is a speed run here. I used the slash and spread tool here. You'll see me use the slash and spread on the waistband to create the skirt width there. So I can have a curved waist. And I'm using the smooth curve tool. As you can see there, I'm actually just selecting the entire line and I pulled that over. So right now I'm just making the petticoat that ends up becoming the silhouette of the dress. But I'm just getting the shape carved out right now. What if I recommend, I don't do this here in this video, I do it later on in the video, but I would recommend actually working with GPU simulation doing this when I did not, because it would make it a little bit faster. But this just, I knew I was speeding this up, so. And honestly, if you really wanted to do it, I would say, I chose to do it this way, and where I actually made the petticoat from scratch. Just because I knew that the other presenter during this stream with Noman, he was going to show the other tip, which was to create other pieces outside of Marvelous Designer and bring them in. But in this one, actually, you can see me struggling. I realized I only put pressure on one side. But in this one, I would actually recommend for the speed of your simulation and the speed of making this to create the petticoat or the understructure that if no one's going to see it, then it doesn't matter. I'll create that outside of Marvelous Designer in like Blender or something, or whatever preferred 3D sculpting software that you have, and then bringing that in as an external avatar. Yeah, so here I'm just trying to have the skirt lay flat using pressure, just because I am just trying to create the petticoat without having to do the entire tool structure underneath it. And here you can see it's orange for those of you who don't know Marvelous Designer well. It's orange because I'm using the strengthening feature. Just Control H. Here I'm also just kind of fixing the angle of the skirt because it was pointed and I wanted to have it be a perfect square where they're meeting in the center front, because it ends up becoming one whole large pattern piece. Normally you don't do that in fashion, but you know, it's Marvelous Designer. I can do whatever I want. Wedding dress, yes. I sometimes when I'm going fast I can't spell. So here you can see I am making a waistband because I'm actually going to sew the entire skirt to the waistband. This is based on an 80s, 1980s, technically also 1880s dress because fashion is cyclical. So I'm actually just making the waistband so that the entire dress will just sew to that similar waistband. Eric, are you still there? We're trying to make sure this is working.
I am still here. I just didn't want to slow down your slow down your presentation.
Speed talking. Oh no. Here we go. So I actually was using the line along a curve, I think it was, to create these internal lines here. Because I'm actually going to start, you can see here I start making the ruffles basically, or a more conical shape. And I start making the ruffles here, you can see. It is twice the length of the line. So when you're making ruffles, I've seen this in our Discord quite often. If you're making ruffles, at least 2 times the length. You can do probably 3 times the length if you really want a large amount of ruffles. Or you can also make circular ruffles, so where it's 2 times, or it's one measurement, and then it becomes a curve, and it's out to 3. Generally, that pattern will look like a spiral for those of you who are new to pattern making. And here is actually where I'm using the GPU simulation. It did collide inside of it, so I'm just kind of pulling it out. So here I'm continuing to make the I'm continuing to make these ruffles. So I'm actually making this cone at the very bottom a little wider. And I am using the superimpose side or over, which I highly recommend instead of hitting simulate and just letting it whiplash right into it. It does make it a little bit faster. Sometimes it works, you can see, and sometimes it doesn't. Try that again. Trying to get Eric to see it. If not, he'll just stay in the chat with us. But here I'm just making the ruffles bigger and bigger and bigger as they go, just so I can have a little bit more of the look of actually having a supportive petticoat structure underneath it. So I have some of that texture. I would still say I would still recommend for those who are trying to work more efficiently. This is not the most efficient method of working, but it is the most traditional, and like I could take this dress and make it into a real garment if I wanted. So here I am continuing to just fix this petticoat. So if you did want to make this and you want it to be a little bit more efficient with your time, I would say to sculpt out the petticoat in another software and just import it as an OBJ. Or if you did this petticoat, you can export the entire garment as an OBJ and then import it as an avatar. But I did want to have it be entirely simulated just for show, honestly. Actually, you can see it's happening multiple times. I haven't really talked about it before, but I'm using the select mesh with box tool to select specific portions of the skirt or the mesh that's colliding with each other. So I can just select those pieces and pull them out. It's quite efficient. I like using that a lot. You'll see me using that a lot during this stream. And here I am just tapering it because I wanted it to be higher in the front, just because I have it in my head she's gonna walk someday, and I don't want her to trip over the skirt, or I don't want to have her shoes collide with the skirt. Much like most wedding dresses, it's going to be a little bit shorter in the front, and that's why I did taper that piece. But I can pause at any time and then open up the file and show you guys if you would like. Otherwise, we'll just go through the entire video, and then I'm going to go and open up the file and show you the different step files. Here, now that I've completed my petticoat, and it's entirely frozen to make it a little bit faster of a simulation. So now I'm instead of doing these, it's technically slash and spread, but instead of doing slash and spread, I am doing it manually so I can just widen up the skirt. Because I liked the shape of the silhouette that it gave me, but I did need it to be wider because I was going to include most of the ruffles or the gathering onto the side to the center back. And the portion that's going to be flat in the front here is just going to be, the center front's going to be kind of flat, so I can apply a graphic that is the embroidery that I'm faking. And here I'm just applying this, and I'm having it simulate over, and you'll see it's going to collide a little bit because there's just so much fabric here. And I'm just letting it set. I do like to use the stiffening tool or the, again, strengthening, just because it's got so much here. I also know that I wanted it to be a stiffer satin, but we don't have stiffer satin in our presets. So I'm just using the strengthening tool, and I will end up bonding this fabric at the end. So now I'm just kind of placing it and letting it sit. Here I'm going to use that select mesh tool again and just pulling it right out. Again, this piece has pressure and it's layer 1. That's why it's looking like this. And you can actually see right now I didn't flatten out the center front, so it's not the same exact length. The center front has that gather still, and I end up taking that away in a minute. Here again, I'm just truing up those corners and the curves so that they sew into each other in a smooth, natural way. Oh, that's interesting that it crashes your Marvelous Designer. Because I'm running about the basic, what is it, specs for Marvelous Designer.
I mean, it varies wildly depending on what type of computer you're using. Some
Yeah.
my computer, my tiny little laptop, it will struggle with some of these things.
That's true. I do have a heatsink in this tower. This is my personal computer that I'm using, so. You can see here I accidentally simulated the support structure of the petticoat. I didn't mean to. Yeah, but there we go. Here I'm actually fixing the center front because it's gathering and I didn't want that, and I wanted it to be flat. So now it's flat. Because then I'm going to apply all my pretty embroidery later. Yes, thank you, Rosemary. I'm going to read it for everybody, for those of you who might not. I think Twitch is also getting these, but Rosemary says, the way of having different amounts of gathering is also useful on sleeves, where you would want the underarm flat and most of the gathers at the shoulder. In fact, Rosemary, I do that because I make some lovely mutton sleeves for this for this dress. In sewing terms, that would be ease or shirring. But yeah, it is best to have the underarm flat and have most of the volume at the top or at the cap of the sleeve. And I'm doing that here with the skirt. It doesn't look as nice just because it is stiff and it's at 15 particle distance. Let's see, where are we at? Oh, I did cut this. So you can see here oh hey, I forget on the screen. So that little blue line there, I did 2 different ways of doing this. That is the subdivide tool, so I can just check how the skirt is laying. And then yes, they are usually marked in real world patterns with squiggles, and I love my little squiggles. Here again, I'm just trying to lay down that skirt so I can just, in the end, freeze it and then never touch it again. And you can see that it's yellow because, or orange on the 2D window, because I did apply bonding. You can see on the Bond and Sky, it's reinforcement undercolor. I wanted this to be a really, really thick satin because this was based on like an 80s wedding dress. I wanted it to be stiff as all heck. Let's see. Oh, I can probably skip this part. I was seeing if I wanted to apply a mesh or a tulle overlay, and I was like, you know what, I probably don't. And then I was also considering doing a ruffled cutout, which I end up not doing. I end up doing ruffles that are applied to it. That's where it is. And there it goes. And here I'm using the 3D line tool for fabric. And I am just kind of, some people would say like carving out, sculpting out, drawing out. I'm just, right now I'm basically just sketching in 3D how I want this to lay. And tracing that as an internal shape, and you can see it's actually going over where the fabric is ruffling down. So I'm going to have to clean that up in the 2D window. And here I'm just trying to figure out that shape, because originally I was going to have like a big ruffle overlay, and then I was like, well, I just want a bunch of little ruffles, and then that ended up being a lot of work. But it looks nice in the end. I'm very happy with how it turned out. Here I'm adding a curve point. So it had a whole bunch of curve points before. So when you're working with Marvelous Designer and you're working with curve points, I do recommend, instead of using Bezier curves, using curve points. As you can see here, it makes it a little bit faster to work, as well as if you are sewing within a segment line and things like that, you don't have the segment points getting in your way while you're trying to sew that entire line. In this case, I end up just using this as my outline and kind of just a sketch. But I do start creating my internal lines. So I tried doing internal line along a curve because I didn't know how I wanted these ruffles to be, but I ended up just drawing in just the straight lines here are following along the curve, as you can see. Having two headphones is really, how do I get this? Yeah. I hope Eric can still hear me.
Oh, I can. That was fun.
Yeah, I'm going to take that out. Never mind. I can hear it scraping on the headphones. All right, I've got two headphones in still. This is really fun having two headphones in one ear. So here I'm deciding how and where I want my ruffles to go, just because I'm going to create a cascade of ruffles going down from above. And off to the side, I'm just looking at a whole bunch of 80s dresses, and there is a dress that just has a bunch of ruffles that are in a similar shape to this. So now that I've done that, I'm actually using the trace tool. I'm tracing this whole piece as a pattern, and then I was going to cut it out, but I decided I just wanted that top triangle, so that's what I'm just going to take that, and then I'm going to slash and spread it again to create the top of this this shape, because the rest of these pieces are going to end up just being straight like straight ruffles again. So I'm just widening out this piece and sewing it straight into itself, because this is just the top of it, so that's always the hardest part. Again, superimpose over is going to be your friend, especially if you're working with ruffles and large pieces of fabric that are sewing onto something else. Superimpose over or side is going to be your best friend. You've seen me use it multiple times here, and so I do end up using it here. I had some artifact that I think I accidentally deleted, and it's just hidden from me, so that's why I just basically traced this one here. And I end up widening this because I wanted it to be more ruffly. Because it is a wedding dress from the 80s. It needs to have all of the ruffles. Again, superimpose over. Everything else is frozen to make this a little bit faster. and I'm still working in layers. All of the previous layers below it, I believe, have been fixed. There it goes. So I'm just applying those. And then I'm going to start measuring this line. Question, is that internal line used to redraw the bottom of the triangle? The internal line that I used to draw the bottom of the triangle. Oh, yes, that I used it a few times before on this video. That is the smooth curve tool. So it's you can see my mouse. It's this tool here. You actually can just select your segment points and then select a line and then pull that curve pull a line that appears, and it'll actually clean up the entire line as you're going. So I don't know if I do it again. I think I do it for the mutton sleeve. For this specific skirt, how I've made this skirt, Rox asked a question. This type of dress uses a crinoline and many accessories. Is it advisable to make an animation? The way that I made this skirt specifically, not. I would advise that you make the, you don't, like, I made the entire crinoline. Yeah, that tool is one of my favorite tools for cleaning up and doing a lot of work when you're working with curves like that. It just select your segment points and then pull that curve down. Just be careful to make sure you select the correct segment line in between those points. So coming back to the crinoline, I made this one specifically not efficiently because the other guest on the event was showing more streamlined methods. I would recommend for this specific skirt, at the very least, I literally have an entire crinoline underneath it. I would make that crinoline in like an part of the avatar that's walking, and then you probably could. Or I would do maybe the upper skirt as well. A separate part of, like, export that as an avatar, simulate that first.
That's a good question. Would you eventually share this file? Is this one of the files you would consider putting up?
I mean, that's a good question.
You don't.
I don't know. I don't know if this is a good one to share because it might break a lot of people's computers.
Yeah, I know, that's true.
That's the main problem. Because rendering this one in high quality render for an hour, for 2 hours, because I accidentally did it, overheated my computer.
Well, that's just the rendering, and that was done in Clo. You can streamline.
I'd probably not
rendering
provide
in other
the
programs.
Petticoat if I did.
Yeah, maybe if we take out the petticoat and all of the layers there, it might be reasonable to.
I think if
Sure.
yeah, it's just such a big file.
I know.
I made clothes for Second Life. I think they'll have a lot of prims. We'll learn more. You can work more simple. Oh, that's cool. You can use crinoline. Yeah. Yeah, this is just a lot for animating this. What is the use of the inner ruffle? So the under portion, the entire inner skirt is actually how a wedding dress is. You would have a crinoline that has like boning and structural support, and you would have a bunch of tulle and a bunch of ruffles underneath it to create that understructure, to hold up the rest of the skirt to give it such volume. So that's the point of it. I would honestly say to bring that in as an OBJ. But I didn't do that specifically because of how the event that this was made for was going.
Did you already touch on that question about the inner ruffle and the petticoat? I guess that I know, but I don't know that I do.
The inner ruffle on the petticoat, the petticoats
Yeah,
that I
is
made?
that just for volume?
Yeah, I did just answer that. That is for volume. That's
okay.
That's a support
Sorry.
structure. I'm gonna rewind to this for a second. You're fine, Eric. Where is this? What does the bond function do? So bonding, Use a crinoline first. Yeah. Turn everything into an OBJ as you're going through it. What does the bond function do? Bonding is for those of you who know sewing, bonding is using interfacing. It makes it stiffer. So I wanted a really stiff and heavy satin, but our satin, the simulating satin here is not as stiff as like the 80s crunchy satin that I wanted. So I used bonding to stiffen it, and I used the like very stiff collar bonding option. I still need to share the other files as well for the men's coat. Now that I remember, those will still be shared. They will be on the blog, I think, this week on our blog, which you can then get. You can then download it from there.
Yeah, we'll have to do that. I think that we can simplify this a little bit and share it. It still wouldn't be something that would be usable for animation, because that would have to be remeshed. But
100%. Actually, you can see here. This whole thing, because I had so many ruffles and because I specifically made this broken, it has issues with collision on these side ruffles here that are just colliding with each other.
Yeah, you can see that.
Yeah, I end up cleaning it up and fixing it, but that is where a lot of the time was spent. Specifically because I was being the person who was trying to break the software that I work for.
Yeah, well, being fancy takes a lot of time.
It does. And as you can see here, which we can go through for if the stream would like, I am saving each step as I'm going. So this skirt now no longer has the petticoat underneath it, which I end up learning the hard way that I need to go get the petticoat again. But I'm saving each step as I go, because I could also do this with garments. So I could save this as a garment and then save this for a future asset. But I ended up later that week, I ended up having to clean up all the stream files, so I knew exactly where everything was. Oh, I haven't spoken on this yet, but you can see here, I did cut the upper portion of this skirt because I'm preparing to put the blouse on top, and I'm preparing for it to have the blouse on top. So the upper skirt will deform while the bodice ends up squishing it down like an actual corset would do. So here I'm actually using the Modular Configurator, which is in all Marvelous Designer programs. I'm using one of the t-shirt file because I'm going to be completely deforming this sleeve, but I just wanted to take the sleeve. And if you follow our tutorials, you too can make this dress. This was from taking a modular shirt and turning it into a dress, I believe, tutorial. So I'm sewing this sleeve into this dress. It is important to note this sleeve does not have to fit this dress because this sleeve will end up becoming a mutton sleeve. So the entire sleeve will just be a big balloon. So the reason I'm using this this pattern, or this reusable block, which I recommend saving your assets and making it so that you can reuse them when needed, is because I knew that it had the seams that I liked, and I knew that it had the silhouette that I wanted, and I could easily cut the silhouette out without having to work again from scratch, just for the sake of efficiency. And so I'm going to start manipulating this piece now so that it ends up looking like this lower V-neck 80s bodice. So again, I'm using the draw on the 3D line tool, and I did the thing where I cut it instead of making it an internal line. I normally recommend making it an internal line so you don't have this problem, because then you can fix it and true it up. But if you encounter that problem that you just saw me fixing here, I'm just truing this up. So now I'm just cutting this out and carving the shape, because I don't need the entire bottom, but I wanted this. I wanted a closer fitting blouse or bodice with a V in the front and a V in the back, because 80s. Now in this case I am using the seam tape tool, which is this tool up here. It is basically applying bonding again to the seam line. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm not actually creating a boned bodice here. I am cheating that. So So for a more efficient way, this is going to end up being bonded multiple times on the bodice and then on the seam line. And then it's going to be strengthened as well and then simulated over the skirt. And here I'm actually carving out where I wanted this shirt to sit. So I didn't want it to sit out here like a normal t-shirt. I wanted it to sit closer, and I knew that I was making a mutton sleeve. Here I'm testing it out to see if I wanted to just put it together, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to increase the height of this sleeve astronomically. I don't need this. So I'm like, you can see I'm like deciding, I'm like, how am I gonna do this? And I'm like, oh wait. And then I delete it. So then I decide, I end up using the slash and spread again here. So I just use slash and spread, and I just make that wider just because I wanted it to be a little bit wider without changing the sewing lines. And then I use the edit curve tool there, and I just start increasing the height of this sleeve. And here I'm going in between the sewing. I accidentally crisscrossed them. And you can see that the previous sewing already exists, so it's flat underneath. I believe I end up fixing it, but it's still just enough that the underarm doesn't have a lot of collision issues. I would say probably go a little bit further so that it goes all the way over to the first pattern piece there. Here I'm using the slash and spread just because this is going to be a beautiful mutton sleeve, which is just super long, and it looks like a leg of lamb, which is why it's a mutton sleeve. And we can see here, there it goes. I end up merging my sleeve back together. I'm making a triple layer dress for animation, which is super heavy on the computer. Do you think it's worth animating one layer, export to Alembic, and then re-import doing a second layer? I would, if you're having problems with it, I would give that a try. Cause it depends on your computer, and if your computer is struggling, I would say it can't hurt. Oh, for the sleeve here, I'm actually using pressure because I'm not about to put more fabric right now because I know I'm going to be importing the rest of the pieces. Normally this would have like tulle or some like batting underneath it to give it structure. I'm actually just using pressure, and then I use solidify. I don't often use solidify for these things, but I did use solidify here just because I have a problem where I forget that I've used solidify, and then I try to manipulate my fabric, and then it starts having issues, and I'm like, why isn't this working? And I've solidified it. So it's actually keeping it in shape without having to use pressure anymore, which is why solidify is very useful. But just remember that you've used solidify, otherwise you will end up having like errors or something like that. You're like, what did I do? That is not how your fabric should be acting. And then you just are really confused for a solid like couple of days, because that's been me a few times where I've just forgotten I solidified a piece. Solidify is useful for when you don't want to use batting and then you need to animate something and it's not going to deform too much, but just be aware when you do use solidify that you've done it. Here I am now deciding Here now I'm actually applying the fabric and bringing it into the scene. So I've applied the lace. I'm deciding on the lace just because this is less fabric than the skirt. And I just, for the entire bodice portion without the sleeves, I used the clone layer over, so everything's sewn to it. So I found some lace fabric texture. I found some lace texture from Substance, and so that's going to be the base to this. And I'm deciding on the resolution and the colors here. And then, let's see. I'm importing my embroidery that I'm actually just using the display, the normal map as the texture for some of these, and then just applying the normal map and then making it invisible. Here I'm deciding if I wanted it to be on the actual piece, because I did want it to look like a floating piece of embroidery, or a freestanding lace would be the term. So I put it on there and I'm deciding. Yeah. And then I did just want to make sure for Chelly, who asked the question about the animation, so long as they're separate layers, that will work. But if they're sewn together, it won't work. So if they're layers over layers over layers, you can do that fine. But if they are sewn together in some way, shape, or form, that wouldn't work. So make sure that they are separate layers before you do that. Much like how I recommended with the crinoline, to bring the understructure in as a separate piece that's not going to be attached to anything else, you can get away with it.
Yeah, and even then, if you separate, if it has distinct parts that are not sewn together, you still, if you export one animation cache, re-import it as an alembic, and then simulate another layer on top of that, you might not get, for example, if you had just two skirts on top of each other, you might not get folds tucked within folds.
Yeah.
It's a solution, but it isn't perfect.
It's something you can try and see how it works out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see what's going on. Coming back to the speed run here, I'm actually using so because of the trim, the style of the substance, substance texture, it comes with like 3 different options. So one of them is a ribbon option, so the entire cap of the sleeve, of that button sleeve, I just used it as just the cap, and I just cut it because it's clear, or it's see-through or whatever. I'm just having that just be a floated lace piece again. Here I am using the trace tool again. So I wanted that lower portion of the bodice as well to be a trim. So I'm doing the exact same thing I did for the cap, except for I'm taking those pieces out from that bottom and I'm going to replace them as a straight line with a trim. If I go fast. So I'm actually merging them together. I could have measured it, but let me just skip past that for a second. So I end up straightening this up because I wanted that lace bottom. Again, because I knew how the other guest on the stream was working, I did it this way. Because I wanted to stay in Marvelous Designer for everything if possible, because they were showing other methods and techniques and tips and tricks. So I wanted to show just I guess sort of the long way, but also like it works. Just different methods to get the same answer or similar answer. Again, so how I had how all those fabrics hanging out in the air, again, superimpose over. And then I got my waistband like that. I'm going to skip a little bit. So you can see here I've actually strengthened the underskirt, or the under portion of the shirt. And it's curling up, so I realized that I needed to remove the stitches from the bottom of it. And I just keep playing around with the size of it. And let me skip a little ways. So I end up deciding here that I wanted the collar to look like it was freestanding lace that was just appliqued on top. So I end up, again, doing the layer clone option. And then adjusting all of that in my UV editor, so it's just the one piece. And then I end up cutting it. And I do that for the other freestanding laces as well. I'm going to skip a little bit here. And I was trying to decide if I wanted to cut it out or not. And I was like, I'm just going to leave it as it is. Where is it? Here we go. So I end up doing the same thing, layer cloning, copying the piece, just because I wanted them to be separate pattern pieces for different images, like individual pieces. And then I can't remember if I mirrored this one or not, but I should have mirrored it, and I don't think I did. And again, it's just creating the illusion of freestanding lace. Obviously, there are different ways to get this look, but I did just want to show how to do it in Marvelous Designer, which is just one way to do it. Skipping a little bit. Okay. So basically, I've gotten the bodice finished. And you save the file. Always save the file.
Yeah, very important step.
Always save. I mean, we do have like every 3 minutes it autosaves, but always save every piece.
And saving as also important, just in case something goes wrong and something gets corrupted.
Yes. And like what I did end up finding out earlier on. What I ended up finding earlier on is that I had not saved like this overskirt with the underskirt underneath it, so I had to go to to one of the older save states that I saved, and I was like, oh thank goodness, I have the skirt.
Okay. Oh.
Because sometimes I accidentally select all in sim, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, this took so long. It would have been horrible if you had to redo it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would have just done the underskirt again, but it's just there's so much now in the scene, and I think a lot of things are down to like 15 particle distance that I would have to basically freeze, like deactivate everything and then redo it. I actually had to do that a few times. Is it just a matter of resimming a design for another model? I'm assuming. Yeah, that's all. You could do that. I would say save everything as like 20 particle distance, but do it as I built this. If you wanted to have such a high detail garment and you wanted to put this on like the Hannah model, which we were like, maybe we'll do that for the stream, or for the Nomen event, that it was like, I don't know how long that would take because what is it called? The auto fitting feature re-simulates, retargets, and then applies it, and then simulates.
Yeah, we haven't tested this one with auto fitting.
I have not tested it, but there are pieces that are at 5 particle distance to prevent
see what happens.
Collision. So I don't know.
So we can see if we can put it on a dog.
Oh my god. That's always a challenge. Oh yeah, here I'm actually like, you can see here, I measured out the circumference of the skirt minus the center front that has the ruffles on it, and I'm putting more ruffles on it because ruffles everywhere. It's a wedding dress. She deserves ruffles. How do you change the model exactly? So if I was to bring in the Hannah avatar, she already has a fit suit built into her because she's one of our base avatars, and I've also made it so many times. I think I just accidentally bring it in. But yeah, just like Rosemary just said, delete the current avatar or import the next one. Yeah, that's what you would do. Because it's been simulated on an avatar with a fit suit. So you go an avatar with a fit suit, you've made it. Then you bring in another avatar with another fit suit, and then you can retarget, or not retarget. You can just select the auto fitting button, and then it'll retarget, it'll resize, and it'll redrape. But it does take a minute, depending on the complexity of the garment, because it's doing multiple different actions consecutively. And here I am slowly adjusting the drape of this skirt. That's why I've simulated the overskirt, reminding everyone that I still have the petticoat underneath. If it was an OBJ, this would be a much faster simulation. And I'm also saying that this is sped up at 2 times the speed. So that's also why it's very slow at 2x speed. still simulating. I did chiffon. Eric ends up being like, well, we should just try it as lace, and it looks better. So just a heads up. The photos I will show at the end, I have it as lace.
Sorry about that.
It was so pretty. I was so dedicated to having that chiffon, Eric.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you were right. Okay.
It's just hard to get that to translate in the render.
Yeah. I mean, it looks better. So, oh, here I decided that I really wanted to have a bad day, and I just put more lace over top of all of the other lace. And so this was a fun thing that I ended up having to deal with because I still had a lot of collision issues because there's so much, and as you can see, superimposed over did not help. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You don't see this, but I spent a couple of hours pulling out and cutting up all this entire pattern piece and then pulling them out and then re-simulating them while everything else was frozen. Just because it was so small and I didn't realize it was colliding with other pieces that needed to be fixed. So here it is fixed. I just had it too large of a particle distance. So here I'm applying the rest of my beautiful embroidery that I made. So I'm actually, you can see here I'm just cheating. I'm just using my my normal map as my texture. And now I'm just applying them all as a graphic because it's just going on top of this.
Oh, and for the question there, it's some about the retopoed ZBrush avatar that it somewhat depends on your use case, but you can export a model from ZBrush as an OBJ and then just import that OBJ into MD as an avatar, and you can just use that. It can be as simple as that.
Yeah. So here I'm just placing this, and I mirrored them, but the mirroring doesn't work as well with graphics, but that's okay. I made giant embroidery. Actually, we just found images of embroidery backgrounds. They're just actual embroidery pieces. So now I'm just placing it around because she deserves to have all of the pretty embroidery on this wedding dress. Yeah, you can also do like couches and things like that as well in Marvelous Designer. Couches, chairs, cushions, furniture. And here again, I'm just placing it. So this is just like me placing it for a while, trying to make it look pretty. This is like the easy stuff. Like I just get to make it look pretty and just place the embroidery everywhere. This isn't the crying and having my ruffles simulate into each other. This right here, this whole corner that we're looking at where these ruffles are, just kept colliding with each other, and I was going to have a meltdown. It's not anywhere on the video, but turns out my particle distance was too high, if I recall. And this is the fun designing part. Ooh, let's go back to this. So let me go back this way. Come on. So, all right, I tried to skip it. So I'm nearly done designing this. I end up changing and removing those and just making it a smaller of those middle pieces. So I'm basically done with the skirt. So once I'm done with the skirt, everything's frozen except for the piece that is going to deform to the bodice that's imported. So I'm importing the bodice, and then I'm going to simulate, make this layer, an upper layer above the skirt. Oops, I keep not meaning to hit that. I make this entire layer above. Everything is going to end up being the same layer. And I simulate it while strengthened over a 5 particle distance skirt, which is the upper portion. It looks scary, but it works. And it ends up squishing it down. I do need to play with it and pull it out a little bit. Just because of the volume of the ruffles and wrinkles. I could have done more, but I ended up liking how it looked, so I kind of left it as it is. Normally, a bodice like this would have boning in it, or at least a little bit more boning than that. Obviously, this has none. But it is strengthened, and so it does give me like a close enough simulation to that. Honestly, you just bring... If you want 3D rhinestones, bring them in as buttons, OBJs. If you want... Because graphics are flat. Oh, here's where I start doing... I'm going to pause this before I answer this, so I can answer this question. To place rhinestones, which is more easy and faster. Easy and faster, PNG, bring it in as a graphic. But that graphic is going to be flat, and it's not going to be an actual 3D OBJ in the scene. So if you don't need it to be 3D, graphic is going to be a little faster. But if you want it to be 3D and you want it to be all over the piece and have actual texture on the in the scene, I would bring it in as a button, like make it a new button, and then make that button an OBJ. Or wait, make it a button. Sorry, import the OBJ as a button, which is an option here in your object browser. Bring it in as a button, and then you can just consistently place these buttons everywhere. And then you can adjust them, and it's a little bit faster than just importing it as a trim. So here's the veil. So I decided to make a cathedral veil, and this is where you really get to see GPU simulation. So here I'm cutting it up. I'm putting these internal lines just in case I needed to fix it. And like cut it and have it in like basically stair step. And I simulate it as GPU simulation, and I did pin to avatar, and there's GPU simulation going.
I didn't see this part before. I love how this looks.
Do you like my ghost? It's just a really long ghost. It's your ghost costume.
It's hilarious. Oh, that's even better.
Yep. So GPU simulation, again, is the thing that you want to work with first. The simulation that you want to work in first to like kind of settle your larger fabrics. There it goes. Because it doesn't have the same algorithm, and it doesn't respect collision as well as CPU does.
It does look like Conjuring Ghost.
And here I'm pinning it to her head. I don't have a tiara and I don't have a comb, so I'm just faking it. And I'm still working in GPU for all of this, so I know that her train is really long, so I'm actually pulling it around because I wanted to have it be like, oh, look at my train from my wedding photo. And it also gets it out of the way for this skirt and for the whole gown when I import the gown. And here I've already brought in and applied my white tulle fabric. So I'm just flying it everywhere. And you saw me do it there. I deleted I hid the petticoat with the Shift Q. It's still there, and if it's not frozen, it'll still animate. But you can also see that I've also the see-through blue pieces are deactivated, so things will pass through them. But I'm not planning on having the the veil here go through or like touch the like the ruffles in the front. So I've removed those so it'll simulate a little bit faster. Again, I'm just using the select mesh tool. That was the thing that I lived with that tool the entire time as I was doing this build. And again, it's strengthened so that it'll kind of pop away, and it's more likely to stay out of itself because it is still GPU simulation. I definitely did not build this piece to be remeshed. You could use the remeshing tool for this, but I made things far too low of a particle distance.
Oh yeah, I should.
You
I'll
can
I'll,
edit this
I'll
one a
help
little
out with
better.
that one here. So, if you were to remesh this, to to streamline it and make it a little bit less dense, you would have to you'd basically have to separate out the parts and remesh them. If
Yeah.
you were running the remeshing tool in Marvelous Designer with something that has this many parts that are so detailed, it would eventually weigh the system down, and it probably would crash. There's just at this point in time, there's a level of complexity that the remesh tool can't quite handle, and yeah, something with this many pieces, it would have trouble with. So you would have to separate perhaps the top of the dress from the bottom of the dress and the petticoat out, and really it does have some trouble with the areas where there are ruffles on top of ruffles. You'd probably separate them out as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Eric. Yeah. I This was not built for efficiency. This one was not. It's built to just look pretty. We could hear you, Eric.
What's that?
Oh, I just saw your reply.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to
Oh,
separate that out because I.
that's fair. It ended, so I can just show you the pretty fit pictures now. Where did it go? Don't tell me. No, it's not hidden. Okay, we're gonna put the image back up. Where did I put it? Oh, I bet it's just in. There it is. We're gonna show the really pretty one. New. Sort by date. So I'm gonna start showing you the finished renders because I don't have it here in the image where it's nice. It just kind of finished there. Because I just rendered this one in Clo, which is our sister software. So here it is with the pretty ruffle, with the pretty lace. This is the one that took like an hour long to render this. Where'd it go? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in so you guys can kind of see it. You can appreciate the ruffles. And so this is it after rendering for the solid hour. This is, Eric, this is the really nice one. I don't know if I've sent this one to you yet.
I don't know either.
This is the one that
I think you.
4 hours. No, I haven't. This is the one that took, that almost, this is the one that almost crashed the computer. This is the one that I took an hour and a half plus to, that I just tried to see how many I could do.
Yeah. Oh, this was even longer than the previous one?
Yeah, because I was about to. It was rendering for that long, which ended up making my computer really warm. But this was the hour-long render. But I tried rendering like the same file, like the same angle again by accident, and then I stopped it and did it again.
Oh yeah. Oh,
But
please do share this. This is great.
Look at the graphic for the embroidery. Looks so much better than everything else.
I know, you can see it so much more clearly.
Yeah. So this is way better as lace instead of as chiffon. 100%. I agree with Eric. Let me look at these files here. I'm gonna go ahead and pull them over because you can't see as nicely on. So this is the one that took like this has more grain to it, and this is one of the ones that took less long to render, so you can't actually see the really nice embroidery here as well. That's why it looks very different from this one. Where is it? Yeah, I have the wedding veil over these. Oh, let me move the chat, my pictures out of the way. So here it is with the wedding veil. That's everything is just kind of off-white. The one thing with the lace, because I was just kind of limited on time, but also on the lace textures that we could find in the short period of time, I just continue to use it as a ribbon, so you can actually see the end of the edge of the lace here, and then I just cut it off because it's a round shirt. For rendering this, we have a sister program called Clo, Clo 3D, I just rendered it in Clo. Just for the sake of speed, honestly. Here's our beautiful ghost bride. I just turned off the avatar. Just because her face didn't look happy enough. So I'd rather have a happy ghost. And then... Well, I need to just get that in the sheet here. MarvelousDesigner.com specs. And someone asked about the Marvelous Designer specifications again. System requirements.
I've got that queued up here.
Oh yeah, hey, can you place that for me? I was
yeah,
like, where
I'll
is
share
it?
that in there. If Restream will let me link in there, it does not want to let me chat. Oh, that's weird. Okay, I'll just post it to you in the Slack chat there. Oh wait, no, there it went through. It did work.
I sent that one.
Oh well, then
I don't know why it's not letting you chat. You can see the chat.
It does that every once in a while. It just decides that I'm done and I don't need to talk anymore.
You know what? At least you can talk verbally and you can see the screen. That's all we got. That's what you know. I'd rather have that.
Yeah, but if I did try to spell out the entire address, that would be a wreck.
So honestly, I'm running a GTX 1080, and that's it. Compared to like the difference of the requirements. So it's not actually a lot. Because I can make this on my work laptop too. I just couldn't, do everything at such a high resolution very quickly, I guess I should say.
And for our software, it's typically the GPU does make especially if you were using.
Yeah, I use GPU render for this.
Yeah. If you're using it for rendering, or if you're using substance materials, it can look really nice with a nicer graphics card. But for simulation, the processor is the most important thing to pay attention to.
Yeah. Let me grab the other images, because we did also make it super yellowed. So let's find that in my files here. Stream. Where's my wedding dress stream? Here it is. Boop. I have the same files named the same things, and I shouldn't have done that. All right, so I have a bunch of photos here, so we're going to go through these.
So a processor with a higher amount of cores isn't terribly helpful. Once you set Marvelous Designer to use above 4 cores, it doesn't really make much of a difference. So more cores isn't necessarily better.
I've got 16 cores, and it doesn't really help, honestly. I left the Crinoline.
It helps a bit. It's just it's just not a huge difference.
Yeah, I should say it's not a notable difference. So I made a small file. I don't know why. So here it is, and it's not what it was. What I thought would be nice. I was like, I want it to be chiffon. No, it's not as nice as chiffon. Oh, wrong way. So here it is, super yellowed, because over time these dresses just turn super yellow, which is really funny. So you have to do kind of a little bath to clean them off. Someone said I have been thinking of getting Clo just because of the render option. I mean, honestly, Marvelous Designer doesn't have render options just because our clients tend to not want it. And they, everyone uses a different program that they prefer for rendering. So it's honestly up to you, because there's a bunch of different softwares out there that have rendering options. I just used the one that was the fastest and most easily accessible to me, which during this event was Clo.
If you want to, you can just go to the Clo website and check it out. They have some pricing there. But Clo uses a V-Ray renderer, so if you have V-Ray attached to some other software package or alone, you can use that.
Yeah.
Or any other. You can bake and export the material channels and render it in pretty much any rendering software if you happen to have one.
Okay, here it was with without the lace. Here it is with the lace. It is way better with the lace. Also, the texture is just better because this is the basic fabric, and most of this actually is all entirely substance textures, except for the chiffon here, which is kind of why as well. And here it is yellowed, and it's got a bunch of holes in it. Come on. Oh, I keep forgetting I need to zoom out. I was kind of disappointed in how I had to keep removing the veil, just because the veil just kept getting all of the light, sucking all the light.
Yeah, yeah, that is kind of tricky.
Yeah, this one has a lot of the graininess there. The noise is what made it faster to render though.
I'd also still be. I mean, there's only so much.
Things.
There's there's only so much time, but I would love to see if we could. I don't know, some point in the future, push it even further with holes and.
Yeah, I want to get holes and I want to get like actual like other textures to it, but I was just this one again.
Yeah,
this one was the one of just working with substance textures in Marvelous Designer.
Right, yeah, exactly, and we only had so many.
We have a question. We've actually had this in the Discord, which I did answer. So I recommend for those of you who are new to Marvelous Designer to join our Discord. You can right-click in the 3D window. So right-click in the 3D window, choose Format Background, and you can change the color of your background to an image or to a color. And that is how you change the background. Though I personally prefer the 50-50 gray, but that is my preference. That is my preference for color. Here it is with the chiffon. Here it is with the lace. It just looks so much better with the lace. And a bunch of holes in it. Yeah, I do want to get more of these. Yeah, dude. Right. So we still have some time, so might as well just open up the file. What do you say? Where did I put it? Let me open up. Toggle that back on. Yes, David. Thanks for stopping by, David. Yes, the stream will be available on our YouTube channel perpetually. Yeah, there's a lot of options hiding there. Come on. Oh, I hate when it opens up on the third window. All right. So I can open up the file and we can talk a little bit about it. Open project. Wrong file. Stream files. I did clean this up a little bit. Wedding dress build. I saved it because it's super high resolution, so it says do not sim. Because you really don't want to simulate this one. Because these are all at like 5 particle distance, which is not meant for efficient working and efficient export. Oh. I accidentally hit close program because I don't know why I did that. Tip number 1, don't accidentally hit Alt F4. Okay, we're going to try that again. File, open project. I may have bought some stuff on the Steam sale, don't judge me. Wedding dress. I might have to open this in Clo if it's too much of a load. Because I have a lot of lighting in the scene that Marvelous Designer doesn't have. It should be fine. But we're going to find out. because I've got about 3 sources of lighting. Oh no, we're good. Okay. So number 1, most of these are substance textures. So with Marvelous Designer 10, if you have things that are substance textures and your file comes in looking like this, toggle on the quality render 3D window, and then you'll actually see everything. For those of you who are new to Marvelous Designer, this is being blue. This is frozen. And you can see my 2D window. My UV is also really ugly right now. And here's my veil that's hidden. Shift Q. All right. So if you want to hide something, use Shift Q is a tip and trick. For the person that had the question, right-clicking in the 3D window, you can format your 3D background to be a texture or a fill, or you can just reset it. I personally prefer it to be gray like this. I also made this look like this so I can go like this, Shift Q. So here is the underskirt here. Honestly, if you're working in Marvelous Designer, again, I would say tip number 1. I've said number 1 multiple times. The tip is going to be, honestly, like, if you don't have to use cloth for it, bring it in as an OBJ or export this as an OBJ, which I should have done, but I didn't do just because I wanted to work within a specific constraint. So you can see here how this is giving it that nicer structure here and support. So it's nice to make a petticoat. So for those of you who are making garments or making especially historical garments, I did kind of touch on this in another stream. It's best to make your the silhouette of your avatar match the period silhouette, and also to bring in your crinoline if you don't want to just make it like a challenge. I would bring in your structural support items that are not meant to be seen and are not going to be seen. Bring those in as OBJs or avatars, and then hide them. Because it will make working in Marvelous Designer a lot faster. I've also hidden one of these petticoats. Which one is it? I'm gonna show my own mistakes. I hid this specifically for this piece. This one had a little collision, but I didn't need to worry about anything because I hid it. Because all of these were simulating over each other and things like that. So just for the end of this, I mean, this is also meant to be hidden. You can see here, I cheated and I just went like that. All right, tips and tricks, Eric. We have another half an hour about tips and tricks here. Let's see. Another big tip. Yes.
Oh yeah, that's a very good point. Very good point.
Yes, Rosemary. We're just broken records about that. We have videos that are almost done coming out specifically about that. When you're importing your avatar, make sure it is within human scale, being 1200 to 2000 millimeters tall. In our Discord, we seem to have a lot of people who encounter that issue with the custom avatars. Marvelous Designer is not a relative scale software. It is a human scale software. So it is using real gravity and real cloth simulation information. So think a simpler way to explain it is to think, let me unfreeze this, control. Let me just do it this way. Unfreeze, control K. Fabric is a weave made for in human scale. If you're trying to make clothes for a super tiny doll that's this big, those clothes are going to drape very different. For like a Polly Pocket, we're going to go with the Polly Pocket. That tiny. Your clothes aren't going to drape as accurately or as well, and you know, your tiny little Polly Pocket's likely to go through the weave of your fabric. So you want to bring your things in at about human height, so you know, probably 4 feet to 6 feet. Generally, this avatar is about, our avatars are about 1200, 1500, depending on if they have heels or not. And also don't bring them in too large. Otherwise, you won't be able to work in Marvelous Designer because the mesh will be too dense. And you can also tell that by the relative scale of your scene. Also, you can use your hotkeys. A lot of people don't know about the 10 key. or just the number keys. If you have a 10 key on your keyboard, I'm going to hit the 5 and it's going to look straight down at my avatar. And then 2 is the center, is like front, 6 is the side, 8 is the back, 4 is the other side, and 1 is 3/4, and so on and so forth. Would be cool to have an avatar maker driven by body measurement parameters. You can edit your avatars to match specific sizes. In Marvelous Designer, the only thing is for women, it's the bust size for the base avatars, but honestly, most people bring in their own custom avatars for working. You can go to size, and these are, for those in the fashion industry, we're just using the fashion industry ones. These are the ASTM base sizes. So these are the ASTM standard sizes. So curvy, straight. These are fitting sizes for garments. So I'm just going to pick one. I want to toggle my avatar on. There. Why is she short today? Oh, I picked the wrong size. Anyway, she's too small right now, so I'm going to leave her plain. Let me actually go bring in the base avatar because I just changed her size. We'll make it Grace today. Open. Yes. Okay, we're going to do Grace today. So as you saw, she was actually much smaller because I chose a smaller size. So you can edit your avatars for size, but most of the time, obviously people work in non-human measurements, or they're working with a custom sculpt. So you can just go to avatar editor, and I have a bunch of size options, and I could make them by body sizes, by actual measurement parameters. Most, again, though, working in Marvelous Designer, it's meant for people who are making their own avatars for film. A lot of the time they're working in relative scale, and in Marvelous Designer, when they bring in their avatar, they're going to be suddenly working in human scale for the first time. So just be aware of that. For working in Clo3D, honestly, I just open up Clo3D to render it. But that's just what I did here, because I have Clo3D for free. Oh, ideal noise rendering? I just saw the question about what's the ideal noise for rendering. Honestly, yeah, the ideally would have no noise, but honestly, that's the one that makes my renders that makes this render take an hour. So I would probably do a little less noise. Probably do a little more noise than 0, because I did do 0 just for the fun of it, and that did get us the prettiest render. But yeah, I'm probably gonna butcher the name. Achintia Designs is a good answer to your question. And yes, Clo3D will open up the files. In fact, Marvelous Designer, I saved this as a Clo file, and Marvelous Designer opened it anyway. Even though in the scene there's lighting that is not available in Marvelous Designer, because I have at least 3 new sources of lighting from the Clo file. So you can just open up the files interchangeably because they save as the same file type. You just can't see the lighting here in the scene. I wonder if it's even being read. Yeah, you can see here I have light. I have 2 sources here because I have a slightly blue light and I have a slightly yellow light. What was I talking about? I was talking about avatar measurements. Oh, if it's too large, it's just gonna cause lag oftentimes. If you're bringing in your avatar, sometimes your avatar will be too small or will be too large. You won't even see it or won't even import. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this, not save anything, and I'm just gonna open up a new. What? I could have just opened up a new iteration of this save state, but that's fine. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Just like trying to simulate a circus tent. In fact, I can bring in one of the 2 large avatars from the YouTube tutorial and bring it in. File, import, add. I believe it's FBX, or did I just save it as a add avatar? I think I just saved it as an avatar, so let's see. Stream files? Where'd all the YouTube videos go? Oh yeah, here they are. Where did I just throw them? I threw them all in the avatar folder. Stream files. Avatars. Too big avatar. I'm gonna do it in inches, I think. Oh, I did this one as I need to relabel them. File, add, avatar. Okay, we're gonna do too large in inches. Alright, so I can't even see my avatar. If I hit 2, oh, there she is. I found legs. And you can see here, number 1, she's far too large for my scene. Where is she? Oh, there she is. She is far too large. I don't think you've seen these yet, Eric. Add avatar. I'll bring her in the actual too large size. I'll do centimeters. Because I also stair-stepped it. So sometimes I've seen some people do this where they're like, I've got my avatar. Here it is. I don't know where my scene is. Where's my... If I hit 2. So number 1, actually, if you can use the hotkeys, and if the hotkeys just zoom in far too close to your avatar, it's probably too large. We'll do this one more time. File, import, avatar. Sorry, add avatar. There's a bunch of different ways to do this. Too large. I'm going to do it as the size that I originally made it to be too large at, and I'll show you how to resize it. So she's actually still too large here. Number 1, which I recommend you guys watch a YouTube video when it still comes out anyway and use it as a reference. Avatar, measurement, linear measurement. I can measure it from the top. Or which one was it? I think I just picked height measurement. There we go. Height measurement. She is 3,967. The max height should probably be like 2,000 for the avatars. So if you have Marvelous Designer 10 and you bring in your avatar too large, you can also check your specification window. So if this is an OBJ that you've brought in, you can actually just check the y-axis here. She's 4,000 tall, specifically. It's including the heels here. I can make her shorter. I can make her 2,000, and then just move her in the 3D window, and then call it fixed, because that's how tall she should be max. But we're gonna keep it this way. So if you bring in your avatar and it's too large, let's just do a giant rectangle. Also, your fabric's gonna be too large too. And look at this. I'm gonna simulate this with CPU, not GPU. And we'll see the speed. This is still at 20 particle distance. And this is before I do any detail. It's simulating right now. So if you are having a slow simulation, you might want to check the scale of your avatar. And that is probably the number 1 tip for new users to Marvelous Designer who are not working with the base avatars that come with the software and you're importing your own. Check the scale and height of your avatar. Because if you are struggling, it might just be that your avatar is too big. Because again, most other softwares work in relative scale while this one works in human scale. So you've basically just made a giant 10. Right now I'm putting her on a... How tall is she? She's like 10 feet. She's at least 2 stories high, I think.
I can't do the conversion in millimeters.
Well, I think like 2,000 is like 6 feet plus, like 6'5" maybe.
Okay.
But I've made a beautiful ghost. I hope you guys like my ghost. She's very slow at simulating and moving, but that's okay.
Oh yeah, it looks like it would have been somewhere around like 11 or 12 feet.
Yeah. So I'm just going to do GPU, which I don't recommend living in GPU. Another tip while GPU is running, for those of you who are new to Marvelous Designer, GPU simulation is not going to be as accurate as CPU simulation. You saw that with the veil, and you're going to see it here. It's faster. It's great for settling your fabric, but it's not going to be as accurate, nor will it respect the collision thickness. Well, Marvelous Designer doesn't have rendering, so I don't know what the question is, Chelly. We don't have a render in Marvelous Designer. But if you did want to simulate a little faster, you could Control J, or actually I would do K, and then I would do Shift Q, which is hide. I'm hitting Shift Q right now.
Oh, I like the shape that created though. That's sort of fishtail.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. Yeah, Chelly, someone asked a question about that specifically, where you could just kind of render it and then export it and then bring it back in. But Eric answered it pretty well, which was you're not going to get the layers interacting as accurately as if they were layered over each other while you were rendering it, or while you were animating it. Oh, yeah. I can see that. No, I don't know why, but it reminds me of the meat puppets. The meat. Oh, that sounds weird. The ones go meep.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know what you're talking about. Where are we going?
These puppets. Oh my gosh, I can't remember what they're called. What are they? You can, but I don't recommend simulating with layers active because it can cause issues. What are they called? Oh, I don't remember what they're called. It's the Muppets that just are like large things of... Oh, it's the Martians. Oh, they're the Martians. It looks like the Martians from Sesame Street. It makes me want to make one of those.
That is not what I...
Yeah, I definitely was not thinking just you know. I just want to make that now. You can use layers. Again, I don't recommend using layers while animating.
I wonder if we...
It is not advisable. It will most likely cause issues when you're animating. Yeah. Don't use layers. If you have layers active, that's why whenever the tutorials that we have layers on, you need to turn layers off when you're going. If you have multiple layers and you're animating, those are starting to move around. Just animating. Do not run them when you're animating.
Oh yeah, you can absolutely use it while building.
Obviously,
that's
I used it while I was making the wedding dress. Do not animate with layers on. Just don't.
Patches for performance? No, I'm not.
Not that I'm aware of.
There.
It might just be you might want to check your avatar's height and size.
Yeah, it could be the avatar size. It's also, again, it's not except when you're using GPU simulation or you're
it could be a lot of
rendering something in Clo. Yeah, the graphics card is helpful, but in actual high quality simulation, it's usually the processor or the RAM that will cause things to slow.
Yeah. Yes. So again, with layers, while making the garment, perfectly fine. When you are done making your garment, make everything back to layer 0 once everything is settled into position. Because just don't run it with animation. Just when you're done, best practice is just to turn off layers when you're animating. While you're working in Marvelous Designer and you're building your pieces, work with layers, but just make sure to turn them off as you're going. Because sometimes what can happen is you're working in your layer, you've made something layer 1, you bring something else in, you make it layer 1 again, or you make that new one layer 0, because most of the time it's going to be layer 0. And you bring layer 0 in. Actually, let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and we're doing this today, since we have all this time. Where's my avatars? Female version 2. We're going to do the correct size avatar. I'm going to grab a garment. I want to actually see which ones they are. I'm going to make this a problem today. Add to workspace. Don't care. I think this one is meant for Hannah, but we're going to find out. No, it fits. So, if I want this skirt to be... Normally I want the skirt to be over this, right? I would make this layer 1. But let's just say I brought in the shirt to this dress that's currently underneath it. Oh, I need to turn off GPU. Normal. I think these are also at 10. Let's see the particle distance here. Layer, it's going to pop right out. To make it faster and easier, I would recommend freezing the layers below it. But let's just say, for the conversation's sake, I've left this at... I've actually done the switch. So this is actually layer... This one should be layer 0. And I wanted to bring in this dress. But I've made this dress first and I left it at layer 1. And then I wanted to bring in this skirt. The skirt here. Right now the problem is that my dress still has a layer value added. And the skirt has no layer value added. So I've forgotten that. So my skirt's going to go underneath now. So this is going to happen when you're working with multiple layers. I wasn't careful with my menswear suit on one of the previous streams. It can happen when you have your collars. Also, if you have folded pieces. So if your shirt underneath, if you want your like a collar to lay over a suiting lapel, and you still have layer values added to them. So like this is, you'll see this fun problem. You have layer values added to them. Your shirt lapel is going to consistently try to go underneath that jacket. And it's going to be frustrating and it's going to probably cause some collision issues, especially since the jacket also has another fold. So it's best to, when you're done with something and when you're done with a layer, to stop simulating. Make them layer 0. And I'm going to have to fix this. So I'm going to go ahead and freeze my dress and make my skirt layer 1 to pop it back up. Might be a little bit, it always seems to me that frozen clothes, yes, because they are still technically able to be simulated. So that's why I said to bring in the petticoat as an OBJ. Because they're still technically cloth. The avatar isn't going to move, whereas the frozen piece of cloth you can see here, this is still frozen. This is more likely to happen. So it's less load on the system if you bring something in as an OBJ than if you are still working with it as cloth. So it's up to your project and your workflow. Let me go ahead and just fix this. No, I don't want brush, I want box. Yeah, it's the same. That is why sometimes when I say, that's why sometimes it's just best to bring in the, for the sake of speed, if you're making large pieces, like I advised with the wedding dress, to bring in the wedding dress as a, or bring in that petticoat as an OBJ. But I intentionally did not do that for the reasons that I've previously stated. But yeah, so I fixed it. This is now layer 1. If I did want to put something else over it, watch what happens. If I'm just working in Marvelous Designer and I just made a square. So once you've settled your fabric, make it layer 0. Because this is going to be, whenever you make a new pattern piece, it's going to come in as layer 0. And if you forget, which happens often, then this will just collide underneath. So it's best to just turn off layers, Control A. You'll see if things have different values or different information here, you'll see it's red. So something here isn't all 10 particle distance and something isn't all 0 particle distance. So I'm just going to select all of it, make sure it's 0, and it's applied all of that to it. So now it's all layer 0. So now I can continue working with my next piece. Let's see. What other tips? So it's the avatar size, which is always number one, which causes a lot of issues. It's particle distance. It's some issues. If you use solidify and you are not careful and you don't have to remember. Oh yeah, how to perfect the curve. Let's do that. Actually, a lot of people don't realize that this is a thing. So I need to fix this curve. So I actually did this during the wedding dress. It's the smooth curve tool. It's got that corner out. So a lot of you probably know it for this, to make a curve in between like segment points, or taking a segment point and making it into a curve. But a lot of people don't know that you can select 2 segment points and then select a segment line. So generally you can accidentally select this line, so be careful. You want to select this lower line here, and then I just grab this curve and I can true it right up. I'm going to do it again with this side. I'm just going in between those 2 points, selecting the line I want to fix, and then clicking and dragging. I'll do that with a rectangle as well. I'll move this. So I just select those 2 segment points, select my curve, or what I want to become the curve, and I true that up. I can also, mess with it. I just had another one that popped in my head. Oh yeah, how to get rid of the extra points. If you have too many segment points, you can also just select it. It gets rid of them. You can select them, but let's just say I had too many of the curve points here. I'm converting them to a curve point. If I had too many segment points, you can convert them to a curve point. And then you can also, let's just say I didn't want this to be a curve anymore. I can right-click that segment line and then delete all of my curve points between those 2 segment points. And I can just check them. I definitely have them. I can delete them individually, but it's much faster to just right-click, delete all curve points. What was another one? Oh, you guys have seen me sometimes do this on the stream. I don't know if a lot of people do want to use this, but you can, this center piece here, if you double click this little center point, this is the pivot point. I can select and adjust where my pivot point will be just by double clicking. It'll turn orange. And I've used this to true up my sleeves and like true up my armholes before on stream. So I've moved my pivot point here, and I can now pivot wherever that point is. I can move it. So long as it's still selected and I haven't selected something else, I can pivot across this, like, as the center point. And then let's just say I'm done with that. I messed up. I want to just make this square back to the original location, or it's like back to flat. I can go to rotate, x-axis, y-axis, or I can make it parallel to. But, I just want this bottom piece to be my x-axis. This also works with internal lines. So right-click the pattern, rotate, x-axis. I can make this internal line my x-axis. So this works if you're working with something that's supposed to like be stretchy in one direction, because Marvelous Designer does also include bias and grain for those of you who are more fabric savvy. Yeah. So in the simulation properties, for those of you who are newer to Marvelous Designer, we have shrinkage, weft, and warp, but it's also indicating that we have weft and warp. So I used the edit texture tool. This also lets me choose the grain direction, or the least stretch. So this arrow tells me which is going to be my grain. Normally there would be like a texture here and it would probably like spin as I'm doing this, but it's white. So so up and down with this arrow is going to not stretch, but actually let's do this here. So up and down isn't going to stretch on this dress. Let me delete this before I forget. But let's go ahead and rotate the grain on this. So this one's going to be different if I make the grain, or if I make the bias, or the most stretchy location, which is the crisscross of the weave, because a fabric is woven. And so the cross grain, or the bias here, move the center please. The bias is now going to be the center front on this piece. So if I simulate this, it's going to stretch a little bit more here. Let's make this just the basic fabric so we can see it. And they're going to lay very differently. So let me do this way. So this way is going to be the stretchiest on this piece. They're mirrored, so it's fine. Ignore it on the right side. So you see how it's drooping a little bit differently. It's going to be stretchier going... Oh, I'm sorry, stretchier going up and down. So I just made the grain here. Yes, thank you. So up and down. So this is where the weave is going. That's why I made this cross. This is the weave. So anything that's going across this X, because everything's a box. When you make fabric and when you weave fabric, it is normally woven in a box. Unless it's knit. Or some other ones. There's some that are floats that are like satin and things like that, and twills. But generally it's a square. So just be careful, just be aware of how you've put your grain and how your fabric is in the 2D window, because it will affect how it drapes. So it works really well if you're making like a 1930s bias cut dress. That would be on the bias. And that's how you do it. So it stretches a little bit more and hugs the body a little bit more on one side than the other. Let's do stretchiest. I want to make this a true bias. Come on. But you can see it's falling a little bit lower. Let me stop the simulation. But that is important for working in Marvelous Designer when you're first getting used to it. Yeah, you could actually delete those in previous versions. You would just use the trace tool or the I hotkey to delete the baseline. The Marvelous Designer no longer has baselines in these newer versions, though, I will say. Because the baseline was just a reference line. And then sometimes this we also wouldn't have it be symmetrical across that line, so let me remove it. In older versions of Marvelous Designer, you just use, there would generally be a blue line here, and that's what Marcus is talking about. To remove that blue line, you just use the trace tool, which is this button here. We'll pretend it's there. You would just select the trace tool and delete it. Or the hotkey is the letter I. But we don't have them in the latest versions of Marvelous Designer just because it's a little bit cleaner to work this way. We're not going to reference it because normally it's referenced in pattern making so that you know that you've done some pivoting and you've done some pattern manipulation, but in Marvelous Designer, most of our users didn't find that useful. I'm going to fix this little curve here. Boop. So I will say it's not perfect. It's going between two points and making it a single point. So you can see here I can't really make this a true curve or a true 90-degree angle from each point. So I would have to use the edit curve point tool or the V hotkey, and I would just do... Oh, that's interesting that it did that, but okay. Another tip for Marvelous Designer is when you are making pattern pieces that sew into each other, you do want this to be a 90-degree angle as best you can. Rotate parallel to this line. So I've just selected the 2 lines to make them parallel, so I'm just going to do it this way. You can also use this to rotate your sleeve, actually. Sometimes I just forget it's an option. But I do still like the pivot. But you can see here, it's almost a perfect 90-degree angle. But you do want it to be a 90-degree angle when they sew into each other. Because then otherwise people complain about, like, I've got this weird point here, how do I fix it? And it's really just where your sewing connects to each other. This isn't helpful because it has this. But that is it for the stream. We've done the wedding dress. This video will be available on our YouTube channel after this. On Twitch, for those of you who are on Twitch, the video will expire after 14 days, but it will still be available on YouTube. So let's go back to the end here. And I'm going to share all of the links again with the chat. I can finally put everything on my main screen again. I don't want to save this. So for those of you who are new to Marvelous Designer, we've had our lovely Rosemary in the chat with us, helping answer some questions, hanging out. It's good to see you, Rosemary. Here's an invite to our Discord channel. So there we are, probably the most active of all of the Marvelous Designer official run communities. You can chat there with other Marvelous Designer users. You can ask questions. You can get some advice. And there we also will, I'm going to start up the contests again, I think. We just have to figure out the best way to do that. We have had some contests in the past, and I'd like to do them again. Here is a link to our official website where you can purchase our software. For those of you who are on YouTube and who are asking me what software I'm using Marvelous Designer. Here's a link to our website where you can look at our software. You can join, you can take a look at our forum. If you prefer a forum format instead of a Discord, you can take a look at the software. You can see the price options for you or if you have a business. And for those of you who are on Twitch, I'm linking our YouTube channel. This video will expire after 14 days. But here's our YouTube channel where we also stream too, because we are doing a multi-stream. It also has all of our tutorials, including our beginner tutorials, which I'm going to share again in the chat. For those of you asking a lot of questions on how to make things, I do also discuss in some of our tutorials linked on our YouTube channel, layering, where we do layering. So if you have more questions about layering, there's a video that has layering, and you can follow along with them. And then for people who are actually having technical difficulties, like with their account or like they can't log in, things like that, we do have a support email, but I do recommend just submitting a support ticket through the website, because it will be a little bit faster in creating a support ticket and a few less steps in going back and forth, and it will help get your problem resolved a little bit faster. And then I'm just going to go ahead and grab the system requirements, because I'm running the basic system requirements. I built this is a personal computer, but I built this tower in like 2016, so I'm not running the most high-tech stuff. But here's a link to our system requirements as well. And thanks, Eric, for hanging out with me in voice chat today. Thanks. It's been nice having you.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for letting me join.
Let's see. Anything else? Yes. But yeah, and if you have any other ideas for future streams, feel free to like comment them on the chat, comment them on this video, or you can always email us at community@marvelousdesigner. Do not email us your technical support questions. This is just for community events and like stream ideas. We used to do like only Q&A streams, and then we've swapped over to the build streams. But if you want to see more Q&A streams happen, feel free to just kind of send us a message and a Q&A that you like. And thank you guys for all joining us, and those of you who have stayed for this long. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Eric. You can talk this time.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, thank you all. I really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll see you again in the next stream.
Yeah, I really like doing this wedding dress, but because normally, for those of you who are unaware of our average streams, normally I do like a 2-hour first half of a build, and then the next stream we do the 2-hour second half of the build. Because this one did take a lot longer to do, but this one was a speed video, so. But again, thank you so much, and we'll see you either on the Discord channel for those of you who are joining our Discord channel, as well as we'll see you not this week, not the next week, but the week after that for the next stream. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day, guys.
Bye-bye.